Do you want to play a combo of characters that has so much offensive impact that you could really hard carry many games that you would otherwise lose? The best playmaking DPS support duo is Genji Ana, and in this duo mastery guide, we're going to be breaking down things that Ana and Genji can do together to have exponentially more impact and give you tips and tricks on how to pop off with this combo every single time. If you like duo mastery guide, smash that like button and let me know in the comments down below what other duos you want to master so I can start on a guide. All that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So the first character we're going to break down is Ana, then we're going to talk about Genji, and then we're going to talk about things that they could be doing together and tips and tricks in that regard. Kicking it off with Ana, Ana usually has to worry about her tanks, and she can't focus the Genji 24/7. But that being said, if you're playing Ana, realize this when you're playing with a Genji duo partner, a tiny amount of heals on Genji goes a long way. While maybe 3 or 4 pumps is what it needs for your main tank to go in, a Genji can be exponentially more aggressive if he gets even a little bit of heals proportionate to the tanks. So when you can, try to heal up your Genji when possible. I know that Genjis are extremely greedy, but I'll get to things that Genji specifically can do to make it easier on you as Ana later. But for now, realize that a Genji that has more heals and more resources can be much more aggressive, which will be really important later on. Now, as an Ana, what you want to be doing in every single fight is analyzing and trying to give Genji calls that he can follow up on. You're going to be able to see things that the Genji might not see and call shots early. Let me give you this example. You throw a nade into the air and you know the nade is going to hit. You can call to your Genji that this is going to happen. When you're shooting enemies and you shot someone 2 times, that's 140 damage, you can call a target dashable. While a dash is only 50 damage and that's not quite lethal, if the Genji adds in a shuriken to that, it's going to be lethal, so that's something that you can call. You can call a target dashable, you can call a target one shot or things like that. That's something that you and your Genji can build up together so that he can confirm kills, because something that's really important about this duo is that Genji is uniquely suited to follow up on his playmaking potential. Speaking of following up, you need to follow up this video by going and checking out GameLeap.com, the Ana and Genji sections. Go do it. Let's talk about a slept target before we get back to the nade example. A slept target should be easy to be bursted by Ana plus Genji. If it's a squishy, the Ana does not need to invest her nade in order to kill the target. It should be fine with a Genji right-clicking, 2 in the head plus dash, and the Ana just shooting the target. You don't need to invest nade here, so don't invest it. Now, if it's a bigger target, let's say it's something like a Hog or Rhine, nade plus Genji burst plus Ana fire should be enough to pretty much kill almost any character that Ana sleeps. It could be even a Rhine, and while it's not going to be lethal damage, it's going to be so close to lethal that a Genji could easily follow up on that target and kill them. So unless that person gets something like a bubble or heavily peeled, something like a beat, that person's going to die to the Ana and Genji. So really understand that Genji and Ana work really well together in that regard. And then let's talk about this next example. Have you ever got a giant nade as Ana, but your team simply couldn't follow up on it? Well, Genji can follow up because he could do burst damage through shields in a way that no other team can. A McCree could get a shield in front of him, and giant nade or not, he's not going to be able to do anything behind it, but Genji can follow up. So when you get a giant nade on the enemy, Genji can use that nade to create opportunity to confirm multiple kills, and it can allow a Genji to play more recklessly, trying to confirm those kills into your nade. Now, of course, many of you are going to be asking about Nanoblade mastery and what an Ana can do to ensure successful Nanoblades, but I'm going to talk about that at the end after the Genji section. But first, let's move on to things that Genji can specifically do to help this combo to have more impact. So, Genji, of course, is a poke and pressure character with a flank style. Ana is one of the characters that can enable him to play more aggressively because she has long range healing, and of course, her ultimate. And the more he's pocketed and the more he's enabled, the more aggressive he could be. When you're playing Genji and you have an Ana that you can rely on, you can take much more aggressive positioning and build much faster blades, which is really important because as Genji, normally you're going to build ult charge far slower than your Ana. A Genji needs to try to build up that ultimate charge as fast as possible because this is the truth. Anas will get to your ultimate when you're only at like 65, and the downtime that she's waiting for you to get to your ultimate is time that's wasted. So the faster that you can get to your ultimate, the more you can combo Nanoblade, which is very, very important. It's how you're going to win a lot of your fights as this duo. So really think about closing that window as much as possible. Now, let's talk about things that you could do as Genji to give your Ana an easier time. You need to realize that your Ana is going to be focusing on the tanks more often than not, so you can't always play aggressive, especially when your Ana is overwhelmed. Well, maybe at the start of the fight, you could play a little bit more on the front line, but as your tanks get low, you need to realize that you need to play more reserved and put less pressure on your Ana, and she's not going to be able to pocket you proportionate to what she's doing. Maybe you just need to play with the team and get Lucio heals for a little while your Ana is preoccupied. It's really important that she keeps the tanks up. And then also understand that double jumping around and on top of your Ana's head is very difficult for her to heal you. It really is. And you want to make it as easy as possible for each other. That's something that's important with this duo. You want to make it so you each exemplify each other's impact while making it as easy as possible to do so in the process. So let's talk about being there to capitalize on the sleeps and nades like we talked about. Something that Genji can do when playing with a good Ana that makes aggressive base plays is use the opportunity that Anas create with sleep darts, with nades, to be more aggressive to try to build his ultimate charge faster. Because ultimate charge is what is the end goal. Nanoblade is the end goal. So if you're being aggressive with things like dashing to the enemy team when they're antied, or doing things like farming tanks when you know that your Ana is looking at you and pocketing you, that is a way that you build faster ultimates, and that's what we want. You want games where you can fire away 7, 8, 9 Nanoblades instead of games where you're firing 4, 5, and 6, because often your Ana is waiting for you to get blade. There's a lot of pressure in that regard, and a good duo will enable each other to where the Genji will actually get his ultimate much faster. So now let's move on to the really important section about Nanoblades. And I know that a lot of people want to know exactly what you need to do in order to have the most impact with Ana and Genji and its Nanoblades. And I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks on how to ensure that every single Nanoblade goes correctly. And even if they don't, you could still capitalize on the situation. So before we get into the tips, the thing you need to understand is Nanoblade is the way to force through team fights. It's incredibly powerful to force things when things don't go right. You can force teamfight wins or aggression. The duality of Genji with the brawl and the poke and pressure. You can force a brawl style of Genji with Nanoblade, and it's insanely powerful. Nanoblade is very, very good in a lot of scenarios. Nanoblade is a way to just win tons of fights. Frankly, it can climb you all the way up to multiple ranks if you master it. Now, let's talk about some tips and tricks that you could start implementing right now. So the first thing that you should do is stop ulting into huge numbers disadvantage. Yes, Nanoblade can turn huge numbers disadvantage. I'm talking you could get a 6-man. Of course, you could win the whole team fight with Nanoblade, but it puts on tons of pressure on your Genji. And like I said, this is meant to make it easy. Nanoblade should be a tool that you use to win fights. It shouldn't be something that you put all the pressure on your Genji to carry. It's just a combo and a tool. You want consistency. Don't make your Genji Nanoblade every single time against 6 people. What you should do is instead let your team push in, let everyone push in, and Nanoblade when it's a full 6v6. This is going to give you a much better chance to execute the blade correctly, to make it so that your value impact frags that you get actually matter for the team fight, and it's not going to put as much pressure on you to get the full 6k, which is really important. Then moving on to the next tip that we have for you, as a Genji player, you really need to dash up traditionally when you want Nano. It makes it really easy for the Ana to Nano you without mistake if you dash up in the air, or alternatively get to the high ground and dash across the sky. Now on Ana, you need to be aware of Lucios around you. You don't want the boostio scenario, and you want to avoid that at all costs, because as such, if your Genji goes up and blades and he doesn't get Nano, he's gonna die, which means you're gonna throw away his ult, and then you nanoed your Lucio, which means you're probably gonna throw away your ult, which could really be the difference between losing and winning an entire game. So you need to make sure that you don't nano the wrong target, and that as Genji, you need to make sure that you're really making an effort to make it as easy as possible for you to get nanoed. And on top of this, the biggest mistake that I see Genjis make is dashing around corners, which happens all the time. You're dashing completely out of your Ana's LOS. Do not do this, and I'm going to talk about that in a second in the third tip. But continuing with this tip, another way that you can execute Nano, this happens sometimes, it's more risky, but if a Genji is at 90%, you can actually Nano a Genji on the ground, and the Genji can use the extra damage from the Nano to dash through the enemy tanks or their front line, build up that ultimate charge because it's increased damage, increased ult charge, and then ult the enemy team. A little bit more risky, more margin for error, but sometimes in a pinch, if a Genji asks for you, if your duo partner says, hey, I want Nano right here, understand that that's what they're doing, and you don't have to necessarily wait for them to dash up if they're trying to make a play like that, or if they don't have time to build up their ultimate and then make a play like that. Now we're going to talk about LOS, which is very important. Ana and Genji need to make sure that LOS is kept in check at all times. Line of sight between the Ana and the Genji before a Nanoblade is executed. Often when a Genji wants to go for things like a slash slash dash on a Mercy or a slash dash on a Lucio mid-beat. This is a common play. This is a play that I've made many times in the past where I'll dash up above the Lucio on purpose or above the Mercy, and then I'll get Nano and I'll slash dash and kill them, right? The thing is, I'm trying to do that with full confidence. And if I don't get Nano there and I try to slash dash a Lucio mid-beat, he's not going to die. If I try to slash dash a Mercy and I don't get Nano, then I've dashed essentially into the middle of nowhere, into the aether. So it's very important that your Genji is confident that he's going to get the Nano. And that is why, as an Ana player, if anything changes between the time a Genji is setting up for a Nanoblade and the time that you're actually firing the Nano off, you need to relay it to him at all possible. Let's say that right before you do it, you get dove by a Doom. You need to relay that to your Genji. You need to tell him, hey, don't invest Blade right now. I'm being dove right now. Or say something quick like, I'm being dove, can't Nano. That is the type of call that's really important, because then your Genji just dashes up, he doesn't use his blade, he reflects, goes back to his team, no harm, no foul. But if you don't say anything and you get dove by a Doomfist and die, and your Genji blades and dies because he tried to slash dash the Mercy and he didn't kill her, that is really bad, poor communication that can really mess up the Nanoblade. Now, last but certainly not least, as Genji blades, often all eyes will be on the Genji. You've seen this often. A Genji goes in, guess what happens? He gets shattered, he gets grabbed. There's so many things that happen to a Genji that he gets focused immensely. And you could say, oh, mission failed, team fight over. But there is going to be opportunity for you as Ana with insanely powerful abilities to make plays when this kind of stuff happens. Let me give you this example. Your Genji dashes above them and nanos. Their ride 180 shatters them into oblivion. What can you do as Ana? Well, you have a nade and now there's no shield to block you. You have sleep dart that maybe you could sleep a target. Maybe their Zarya use both her bubbles so they can't cleanse your bubble or stop your bubble. And this is an example of a situation where you can use the opportunity to find huge nade plays or value sleeps. And that's something that you should be trying to do basically across the board. You're trying to use each other's pressure and the threat of each other's abilities to exemplify each other's strengths. And that's what I've been talking about across the board. And if you implement every single one of these things into your game, your Genji Ana duo in your games is going to have exponentially more impact. And then of course, I got to talk about individual skill level. Remember, the more value you put in on Ana, the more you get honed on your dragonblades as Genji. You have a responsibility to your partner to make it so everything's on point, and then you help each other and you rank up together and you climb many ranks abusing this duo combo. Because frankly, I'm going to be honest with you about this combo. You can climb this combo all the way to the higher ranks. You can climb this combo all the way to plat. You can climb this combo all the way through diamond and even all the way to masters. This combo is insanely powerful, and because it's so powerful, it doesn't matter about team composition or anything like that. You can force through fight wins, and that's why this combo is something that you need to get right. That being said, if you want to master Genji or Ana, do yourself a favor, go check out GameLeap.com. The Genji and Ana section are extremely stacked. We have tons of videos and VOD reviews for each one, so if you want to level up your game, do yourself a favor and go check it out. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments about the Genji Ana masterclass, do you like the masterclasses? Do you don't? Do you want to see a different combo? Definitely let me know in the comments down below. It all depends on how much support this video gets, so smash that like button. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time,